terrible thing you've ever done. The worst thing I ever did happened when I was 14, and it involved fake charity badges, terrible carol singing, and a complete lack of moral compass that still makes me cringe 20 years later. It was December 2003, and my mates Jamie and Connor had discovered that getting pissed at the local playground was our new favorite weekend activity. The problem was we were broke teenagers with no reliable income beyond whatever pocket money we could scrounge from our parents, which wasn't nearly enough to fund our sophisticated palate for the cheapest vodka and strongest cider we could find. Jamie was the mastermind behind most of our questionable schemes. He was this lanky kid with acne-scarred cheeks and an unfortunate voice that cracked at the worst possible moments. But he had the criminal creativity of someone destined for either prison or business school. One Friday afternoon, as we sat in his bedroom lamenting our empty wallets, he had what he considered a stroke of genius. "Right, it's nearly Christmas, yeah?" he said, rummaging through his desk drawer. "People get all generous and charitable this time of year." "So?" Connor asked. Connor was the follower in our group. Not particularly bright, but loyal and willing to go along with whatever stupid plan we hatched. "So we go carol singing, but we pretend we're collecting for charity. People will give us loads more money if they think it's going to starving orphans or whatever." I should have said no right then. Even at 14, I knew this was crossing a line from harmless teenage mischief into actual fraud. But the prospect of having enough money for a proper weekend session was too tempting. Jamie produced some cardboard from his mom's craft supplies and started fashioning what he claimed would look like official Salvation Army collection badges. He cut out rough rectangles, covered them in cling film to make them look laminated, and wrote "Salvation Army Official Collector" in his terrible handwriting with a black marker. "These look like complete shit," I pointed out. "Nah, they'll be fine," Jamie insisted. "People don't look that closely, and it'll be dark anyway." We spent the next hour rehearsing our caroling repertoire, which consisted of half-remembered fragments of Christmas songs we learned in primary school. Our version of Silent Night was missing entire verses. Our jingle bells kept falling apart when our voices cracked, and none of us could remember any words to "We Wish You a Merry Christmas" beyond the title. Saturday evening, we pinned our fake badges to our coats and set off for the posh neighborhoods where people actually had money to spare. The plan was simple: knock on doors, sing terribly, hold out a collection tin, one of Jamie's mom's old coffee jars with donations written on masking tape, and collect money for our charity work. The first few houses were disasters. One woman took one look at our badges and shut the door immediately. Another guy listened to about 30 seconds of our mangled carol attempt and just shook his head. But then, we hit our stride. At the third house, this elderly couple came to the door and seemed genuinely charmed by our awful singing. The woman kept saying, "Oh, how lovely," while we butchered Silent Night, and her husband dropped a 5-pound note into our jar. "Keep up the good work, boys," he said. "The Salvation Army does wonderful things for people in need." That should have been the moment we stopped. Looking at their kind faces, seeing how genuinely happy they were to contribute to what they thought was a good cause, I felt this sick twist in my stomach. But Jamie was already thanking them enthusiastically and leading us to the next house. Over the course of 2 hours, we collected nearly 40 pounds. Most people were generous, dropping in pound coins and notes while praising our charitable work. The worst moment came when this middle-aged bloke answered his door and initially said, "Sorry lads, I only give to registered charities." Without missing a beat, all three of us pointed at our obviously fake badges. The guy squinted at them in the porch light and I was certain we were busted. But instead, he nodded approvingly and handed us a pound coin. "Fair enough. Good on you boys for doing this." We spent the money that night on cheap vodka and Strongbow, getting absolutely wasted in the playground while congratulating ourselves on our criminal genius. But even through my drunken haze, I felt terrible about what we'd done. The guilt never really went away. Even now, whenever I see actual Salvation Army collectors during Christmas, I remember those kind people who thought they were helping charity and instead funded 3 teenagers getting drunk behind the swings. I donated 50 pounds to the Salvation Army a few years ago, telling myself it was back payment with interest for our teenage fraud. It didn't really make me feel better. Some mistakes you can laugh about later, but this one still makes me feel like the terrible person I was at 14.